Every so often, I like to take a look at the Open Critic recently released page to see what smaller games I might have missed that have reviewed well. It's nice to sometimes find something a little bit different, especially when you're in between big AAA games. This was when I first came across the page for a game called Cabernet. Its intriguing cover art and impressive review scores piqued my interest. A quick Google search later let me know that this was a narrative RPG where you play as a young vampire, and I was sold. Now it marks my 270th platinum in my cabinet, and according to PSN profiles, I am only the third person to earn this. So let's take a look at this little game and what struggles I had to earn its platinum trophy. Cabernet commences with a sombre scene, the funeral of Elisaveta Morozova. As her uncle delivers her eulogy, the player is presented with choices that define Elisaveta's character, allocating points to her across 4 distinct skills. As the funeral ends, Elisaveta, or Lisa, wakes up, gaunt, confused, covered in dirt and trapped in a dark room. Forced to make a bargain with an unseen helper, she escapes her plight only to find herself at a high society party, woefully underprepared and underdressed. It is here, far away from home, that she learns of her new existence, a vampire with no memory of how or why she was turned, and is left to introduce herself to the other party guests and come to terms with what she is. The core gameplay of Cabernet revolves around narrative interaction, with dialogue choices shaping the progression of the story. But the game mixes this up a little with its RPG-like mechanics. As you found at Lisa's grave, she has 4 key skills that she can use, although each skill covers 2 separate areas: music and arts, literature and writing, science and logic, or history and politics. Points in each of these areas will open up conversation options, or let Lisa uncover different things in her exploration of different areas, and taking advantage of these will often give Lisa some bonus experience. As Lisa levels up, you can assign more points to these skills, and these skills are more important for being able to say and do certain things throughout the game. Like a lot of narrative-focused RPGs, Cabernet also has a relationship system, where she can form friendships with some of the people she will meet in the small Eastern European town that she finds herself living in. Each character has their own preferences and side quests attached to them, and getting them to like you is a matter of choosing the most appropriate options in conversation. The sardonic hussar likes people who are witty and sarcastic like he is, whereas the music teacher, Anastasia, is easily befriended by people who are warm and supportive and interested in the arts. This is where the skills you have come in, as some characters' relationships cannot even be started if you don't have the right level of skills. Anastasia is one of the first characters you meet, but unless you have a music and art skill of at least 5, you won't be able to walk her home and progress her quest, as you need to choose those options related to the skills to get her relationship score up to 60 first. It's not only skills that limit your conversation options though, as Cabernet also has a pretty basic morality system. When you choose more compassionate or empathetic options in conversations, your humanity will increase. If you choose selfish or unkind options though, your nihilism will increase, and much like the skills you have, having these leveled will open up new avenues for conversations or relationships. There is a con man called Kirill who owns the vodka bar in the west of town, and if you have a high enough nihilism score, he can ask you to do some work for him of the criminal variety, which is key to finishing his side quest. Talking isn't Lisa's only talent though, as she is now a vampire, and that comes with certain benefits as well as drawbacks. Lisa can turn invisible, she can turn into a bat, and if she has a high enough relationship with someone, she can enchant them, putting them into a trance temporarily. This trance makes 2 things possible. The first is the ability to feed on them, drinking their blood to keep yourself alive. Another though is the ability to influence them. Want to convince Anastasia that her marriage to Evgeny is over, and then swoop in to romance her for yourself? You can. Want to encourage that con man Kirill to be a better person and stop cheating at cards? You can do that too. While the game's blend of RPG mechanics and visual novel gameplay is commendable, there are certain aspects I feel could have been refined and improved. Being a vampire, Lisa is only allowed to wander around the town when the sun is down, and to simulate this, the game splits the night into 4 segments. Certain actions or conversations will take up one period of the time of Lisa's evening. If you want to take Anastasia on her dinner invitation, that will take up 1. Doing some medical research to assist Dr. Volkov, Lisa's sire, will take up another. The 4th segment was to give you enough time to get back to your room and your coffin before the sun rises and you die. Certain quests and events are time limited too, but even with these restrictions, Cabernet makes it extremely easy to do almost everything. It's incredibly simple to get all of your skills up to above 20, max most of your relationships with the majority of the cast, complete the majority of the side quests, and max your humanity and nihilism levels in one playthrough. I do appreciate that this game is a narrative game and it is meant to be a quite cozy, laid back one, but it would have been nicer if there was a little bit more RPG and you could either be a super humanitarian or a huge nihilist, but not both at the same time. The reason all of this is so easy to do is because it's really simple to level your skills and moralities. One of the ways that Lisa can spend her time is by reading books, and these books, when completed, give her stat bonuses to specific skills. If you sit and read Darwin's Origin of the Species for 3 periods, it will boost your science and logic skill by 3. You do have to buy these books, but if you engage in some early game thievery or gambling, money is never really a problem, and the game gives you large periods of time to finish up side quests and read books between major plot points, and it isn't difficult to do all of these things. You can influence people to do nihilistic things, and it doesn't really change your relationship with them. Feeding on them does give you some negative feelings towards you, but you can avoid this too by either feeding on rabbits in the forest, or going completely cruelty-free and only drinking from the titular Cabernet, which, at least when bought from Arbon, is ethically sourced blood from volunteering humans, although, again, this comes with a monetary cost. This is one of those things I feel like I wouldn't have had an issue with if I hadn't been trying to do everything in one playthrough. If you just wanted to roleplay as Lisa, then I suppose you would do one humanitarian playthrough and not associate with the more nihilistic characters or options. I am, unexpectedly, a bit of a completionist by nature though, and even though there weren't trophies for every side quest or character, I wanted to see them all anyway. But it would have been nice if there had been more consequences for the decisions you do make. With games in this genre though, gameplay isn't ever really going to be the big draw for you, instead having more focus on story and characters, and Cabernet does a great job with this. As I said, the game has a very comfy, cozy vibe to it for the majority of its story, so most of it is just living the day-to-day of Lisa's life, doing work for the doctor and getting to know her neighbours. That's not to say that the narrative is light though, as despite its cozy start, the end of the game has some interesting twists, and the decisions that Lisa can make can lead to completely different endings. There are a few major themes that carry through this story though, and it's the game's exploration of these that heighten its narrative above and beyond the actual story it's telling. Vampirism has been used as a metaphor in 100 stories throughout time, and one of Cabernet's main themes is that of addiction. Multiple characters in the game are suffering from alcoholism, including Lisa's father, and there is a lot of time spent examining the effects of that disease. In a conversation about alcohol, Lisa confides in a writer named Evgeny that her father told her he drinks to dull the pain he feels, to which Evgeny responds, "I feel dull when I'm sober." This is something Lisa seems to struggle with too, as when you are running low on blood, she moves slower, she looks gaunter and paler, and obviously if it gets too low, she will die. On the flip side though, she does have the ability to overfeed, becoming blood drunk if she drains someone to death or drinks too much Cabernet. This actually boosts all of her skills by a lot, but at the cost of when her blood level does drop, it drops much lower and much faster than usual. I always find it incredibly interesting when games weave gameplay effects into their narrative and themes, and I found this really interesting. Again though, I do wish the game had a bit more teeth with how it dealt with this mechanically, as you don't actually need to feed that often. Alcoholism isn't the only topic Cabernet deals with though. Depression, class division, and exploitation of the poor are all engaged with really well. The way that Lisa reacts and engages with these topics can completely change her relationships, the way that certain events play out, and the number of endings available to her. There is no real pressure in the story, and despite its sometimes darker themes, the narrative does retain its quieter, cozier feel. I liked seeing all the relationships I could build, and how each character could change depending on my decisions. Cabernet's story isn't one of those life-changing ones that I will remember in years to come, but I really enjoyed playing through it all anyway.
Damn it.
One of the things I found so charming about Cabernet was the way that its characters look. All of them have a sort of papercraft feel to the way they move, stiff-legged and bouncing as you walk across town. The background scenery is so detailed, and moving through them is like moving through a painting, and helps that the background music was pleasant and helps build a cosy, warm atmosphere that the game was going for. I also really enjoyed that Lisa's way of entrancing people was to sing a lullaby to them, but I do wish you could skip the song after you had heard it once, as it does start to wear by the 6th time that you've heard it. There also were some annoying bugs that I stumbled into occasionally, like getting stuck underneath the floor after I'd turned into a bat and flown through some stairs instead of up them. I also had an issue with the game changing what I was focused on, so I would accidentally examine the wrong thing or talk to the wrong person. I found myself having to shuffle Lisa up and down a little bit before she would actually target the person I wanted to talk to. None of these are huge deals, and I'm sure patches will fix this, as there have already been a few that have fixed issues I found. But it would be nice if the game did play a bit smoother.
And the light will await you and me, await you and me.
The trophies in Cabernet were actually one of my biggest issues with the game. This isn't because they are particularly hard or time-consuming, but there were some frustrating issues that meant I had to play through the game 3 times. Luckily, it is a very short game, and earning the platinum only took me about 20 hours. Cabernet has 7 different endings, and there is a trophy for each. Most of these rely on different important conversations that you have in Chapter 7, and are pretty easy to get as long as your nihilism or humanity score is above 50. One of the endings, though, depends on a choice you make very close to the beginning of the game in Chapter 2. I'm not going to spoil the ending, obviously, but in Chapter 2 you are tasked with retrieving some documents for the Countess by the Hussar. What you need to do is progress the story by befriending either Evgeny or Anastasia, and then robbing them once you're allowed to enter their house. Once you have found these documents, you have the choice of handing them over to the Hussar, or lying and saying that you couldn't find them. If you give him the documents, you can later on make a deal with the mayor and get one ending. For the other ending though, you have to lie and keep them to yourself. To lie to the Hussar though, you need to make sure your history and politics skill is above 10, and then play through the whole game and make a different deal with the mayor. There are also some other quite finicky trophy requirements to be aware of. There is a trophy for turning a character into a vampire in the last chapter. To do this, you need to ensure that the character's relationship with you is above 80, but you also need to have at least done the first set of tasks in the Workaholic side quest to hear from your sire how a vampire is made. Weirdly, you do not need to hear this story to turn your cat into a vampire, which was for a different trophy. One of the trophies, Heartbreaker, is for rejecting a romantic partner, and I don't know if this was a bug or another finicky choice, but when Evgeny asked about a relationship, there was an option to remain friends, and an option to say something along the lines of hell no. I picked the hell no option and the trophy didn't pop. But when I reloaded and picked the let's just stay friends one, it did. So just be aware of these. The game only lets you keep 3 save files, so try and rotate these every few days just in case. Some other trophies to be aware of during your playthrough include Vegetarian, which is for not feeding on any live creatures after the beginning of Chapter 3. You will need to feed every few days, and your options are feeding on people you are close to and can charm, or eating rabbits in the woods. To avoid these for the trophy though, you can only feed by drinking Cabernet, which you can buy from Arbon or the vodka bar. This does get expensive though, so remember to keep a stash of cash on you. Once you have finished the Hussar's questline, you will find a letter in your postbox that has a bottle of Cabernet inside. This is actually an infinitely reusable and makes the issue moot, but you need to get through the first 4 chapters of the game to even get to this point, and have your science skill up to at least 25. Lastly, and this is cheating a little bit, but there actually is an option for infinite blood in the settings, so you never actually need to feed at all after the mandatory feeding in chapter 2. The other trophies that you need to be aware of are first starting relationships with different characters you can meet. I believe there are 4 potential romantic interests in the game, and you can actually romance them all if you would like, and you'd need to start at least 2 for the trophy Love to Spare. There is also another trophy for breaking up a married couple and starting to date one of them. The only married couple you meet are Anastasia and Evgeny, who you meet very early on. When your relationship with them is high enough, you can enchant them and plant suggestions in their mind. With enough nihilism, one of the suggestions that you can make is that their marriage is over. When this is done, you can start a romance with one of them and earn the trophy Puppet Master. You can also use the hypnotic suggestion power to discourage a character from pursuing their dreams, but there are options to do this in regular conversation as well. There is a character called Marussia who wants to leave the village and make something of herself, but you can choose to convince her to stay and earn the trophy Dream Crusher. If instead you choose to encourage her and follow that dream and make the best of herself, you can earn the trophy Dream Come True. It's best not to waste these hypnotic suggestions, however, as some of them are important for finishing characters' side quests. For example, you can, if your relationship is high enough, use your charms to encourage Kirill, the conman, to change his ways and become a better person, and this is the best way to end his quest. However, there is another trophy called Safecracker that requires you to open his safe, and the only way to do this is to hypnotize him into giving you the code. If you have waited until near the end of the game after meeting Garcia and ask her about her parents, you can loot the safe and find her parents' ring. If you return it to her, you will also earn the trophy, the One Ring. Cabernet's trophy list is full of trophies like this, but most of them are pretty easy and at most will require some tactical saving and reloading to minimise your playthroughs. When I played through it the first time, there were quite a few issues with trophies. The Safecracker trophy was impossible to get, as Kirill wouldn't earn enough relationship with you just from doing his quest, so you also couldn't get the One Ring trophy. But these have since been fixed, and the Platinum is now easily achievable. Luckily for me, the patch came pretty soon after I'd finished my first playthrough, so I wasn't waiting too long. And then I could earn the Platinum trophy, Master Sommelier.
Your path is just beginning, little dove, so you'll make much more use of it now.
Although I had stumbled upon Cabernet by accident, I am really glad that I played it. I like the way that it uses RPG mechanics to affect the narrative in a way that I don't think I've seen many adventure games do. I just wish it wasn't so easy to max every relationship and morality at once. It would have been nice if the choices you made felt more consequential, but that isn't a deal breaker at all. If you are looking for a chill, low-stakes story with character relationships at its core, I would highly recommend taking a chance on Cabernet. And I think I will definitely be keeping an eye out on whatever the developers bring out next. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this look at Cabernet, and please like and subscribe if you did. Let me know if you've been playing anything similar or any other games like this that you've enjoyed in the comments, and until next time, happy hunting.